Welcome to Always Coachable, conversations with athletes, leaders, coaches, and high performers about growth, mindset, resilience, and the lessons that shape us over time. Today's guest is Ben Fanelli, and Ben's story really starts at a moment that really could have ended a lot of things for a lot of people. At 16, a few games into his OHL career, one hit left him with a fractured skull and three bleeds in his brain. He was told that he'd likely never play again. And against those odds, he fought all the way back, captained the team, and earned a camp invite with the New York Rangers. Then, as if that's not enough, he took the whole experience and built Heroic Minds, a movement grounded in one idea that we're not victims of our circumstances, we're the heroes of our own story. Today, he's a keynote speaker and a psychotherapist who helps people turn their hardest moments into their greatest strengths. He's a leader, a builder, a husband, a speaker, and a real presence and command. And I'm lucky enough to call him a friend. And honestly, someone that I look up to and have immense respect for. So, Ben, here is why I wanted you on the show today. This is our fifth episode. You took the worst moment of your life, arguably a terrible, terrible moment of your life, and turned it into a way to lift other people up. That's absolutely rare. Most people who go through that just seem like they're trying to survive it, and you built something out of it. So officially, Ben, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you so much for having me. Geez, now there's big shoes after an intro like that.
Yep. Show's over. Thanks for coming. Show's over.
Exactly. I appreciate the introduction, and I know that's what people on the surface will see due to how the internet works. And I'd say, it wasn't just me. You say he was able to, or Ben was able to, and I think the reality is there was an army at my back. Yeah, sure, it was an unlucky situation in a highly competitive physical sport. But at the same time, what I feel sometimes people miss is the army at my back. And that, of course, is what drives the work that I do today of, what can people really do when not only is there people helping them, maybe the initial steps in their journey, they need a little bit of, couple hands on that foot, helping move that next step, but also just tapping someone on the shoulders and saying, like, I actually think you can do this. Right? Because it's so easy at times to look around when nothing objectively looks like success or progress. And other people, if needed, can sometimes help you believe in something that doesn't yet exist. I was very lucky to have that. Yeah, go ahead.
You kind of just answered it, and I think that I know how you're going to answer it, but that intro is, I know sometimes people get a little squeamish when they hear those things said about themselves, but is that how you see yourself?
Yeah, I see myself as the collection of lessons from a bunch of people that probably don't even know. I have taken little bits from their lives. Some outwardly do. I try and remind my parents all the time of what they've taught me when maybe they didn't even notice. And I think that's another big thing maybe we can get into
Sure.
of the subtlety in how we teach other people. But yeah, I would see myself as the collection of what I would subjectively say ideal character traits and behaviors and habits of other people. And I'm very lucky to have that. Very lucky to have those people in my environment at different points in my life that have taught me those things.
Where do you think that came from? You kind of just mentioned your family, but in your younger years, being an accomplished hockey player, even without the injury, and I know that's probably a pivotal part in your story. But what was Ben like back then? Do you think you had those characteristics?
It's a great question. To the best of my ability, and now I'm learning more and more every day, this whole performance or resilience, these high level terms we use are so multidimensional. And you could, look around, just scroll through LinkedIn. There's people from every different domain saying, here's the key to performance. So we know it's multidimensional. And if I could use a reductionist perspective and bring it down to something that it could have been. I had two parents that were, on one side, I had the endless optimist in my father, and I had still an optimist, but the more rationalist in my mother.
Yep.
And I'm going to posit that in that coexistence of those two things, it was, I was a bit of a rugrat running around doing a million things. I feel sorry for my parents. And as I, my wife and I look to have kids in the near future here, we're kind of worried. Hopefully they're not too much like we were as kids, but that may be
That's the big thing, right? Just hopefully they don't turn out like we were when we were kids. Right.
Exactly. I'm sure though they will be. But yeah, that's what I would say if I could try and put my finger on it. I don't know how I was in a place where I could dream a million dreams. I very much did as a kid, that anything was possible. And it was never my parents telling me what it was or was not possible. It was just me kind of dreaming on my own. And then the aspect of the rational side of my mom, it wasn't you can't do this. It was more about let's have a conversation of what this could take and if you want to sign up for that. Because if you sign up for it, it's you signing up for it, not us. We're not the ones lifting everything for you, moving boulders out of the way for you. That's going to, if you choose to do this, whatever it was at the time, that it's going to be you that makes that decision. And so I'm, again, it's a tough question to answer and have full, whether it be evidence or certainty. But I think if I look back at my childhood, that was a big part of it.
Do you think that your success in athletics, in hockey, was? Do you think that played a role, that you kind of had that perspective, which is not super normal for younger people, right? Do you think that's something that you had?
Yeah, I followed the trajectory I hear about every day in my work. It was play the game, have tons of fun. That was the only thing it was predominantly my dad that oversaw things when it came to the sports side. But I don't want to, we're at a time where I think my mom is unbelievably athletic. She's just hesitant to showcase it. I remember when she came on
Yep.
the outdoor rink, I've seen us play ridiculous games like trying to throw things in the garbage as a competition with my
Yep.
dad and my mom. Like my mom is very athletic. But yeah, I think that was the one rule was like, this is about fun, Ben. And if you're not going to bring an approach of love and joy to this, then we have to have a conversation. That was the only time I ever had a serious conversation about sport ever, was when I was feeling sorry for myself because I maybe underperformed from the expectations I set out for myself. But yeah, I followed that trajectory of like figure out how good you can be, have tons of fun and joy. And then I think that's what allowed me to develop certain skills in hockey and soccer and some other sports that I had a lot of fun in. And then it kind of, you realize, once you realize how good you are, the expectations set in and the failure avoidance sets in. And, I for sure had experiences in those cases as well.
Do you remember seeing maybe your friends or other people on your team, or within the various sports? Do you remember seeing other players who, it wasn't a skill thing, but maybe they lacked what you just said, the fun element, or just kind of the perspective element? Do you remember seeing that and maybe recognizing, gosh, that's a reason maybe why they aren't progressing, like that you had a different perspective than they may have had?
I'll be honest, I think at times I had the same perspective as them. I wasn't aware of the ideas that I now look at today, that you look at today and research today, and that you're pushing out into the world, and that other people in similar arenas to you and I, that what we're doing, pushing out these messages that joy and love and passion is very often the antidote to a lot of the
Yep.
self-doubt and failure avoidance. But I would say what was more surprising, because I think that's kind of easy. It's like, yeah, we look around, it's like, they're worried about making mistakes. They're worried about what mom and dad are going to think. They're worried about if they don't get to the NHL. What was most fascinating was the opposite, was the Jeff Skinners, the Landeskog's, the Tobias
Yep.
Reeders, the Radek Faxas, the John Gibsons, the Ryan Murphys, the John Moores, the list goes on. Like, they all came from completely different backgrounds, different parts of the world, different abilities, very much so, size, strength, skating, shooting, passing, patience, etc. They all had But the underlying theme across all of those individuals I named, for your hockey listeners, will recognize at least a few of those names. The underlying piece was that they did it for no one else other than themselves. And to, go down even further, like game day was another day. How they came to the rink on practice day for some of them and how they came to the rink on game day was pretty much the same thing. No forward thinking into the future. Their mind was where their feet were. And at the same time, in that group, you had individuals that would exercise before games. You had ones that wouldn't really warm up. You had ones that were really dialed in on their nutrition. You had ones that really didn't think too hard about what they were putting in their body. And yet they all made it to the top of the mountain, of which so many are trying to make it to. So that's the part that fascinated me the most. And what continued curiosity with that is what drives me to keep learning in the work that I do, because a lot of the messaging today fits a nice aesthetic, right? It's all about grinding. It's all about doing more. It's no weekends off, more, more, more. And you zoom out and you start to listen to some of the individuals at the top of their game right now at the professional level. And to me, there's a bit of a disconnect, right? There's a lot of athletes talking about the attention they put on balance in their life now and focusing on their family and other hobbies or interests. I mean, Jokic in the NBA is one of my favorite stories to share. He wins an NBA championship, seems like he doesn't care. And then a few weeks later, his racing horse wins a race and he's crying, tears of joy. And I'm like, yes, sporting world, let's sit with that. All of us, let's sit around a table and sit with that and figure out, wait a second, that doesn't match the Nike commercial. That doesn't match the Olympic commercial. What is going on there? Because he had immense success. He's from what I know, I'm not a huge basketball follower to know all the stats, but I believe he's very much in the top tier of performance in the NBA. And there he is, objectively showing, I don't know what you call it, more compassion, love, joy for his racing horse winning a race. And when he wins the biggest trophy he can in his sport, he's like, yeah, pretty good, happy with the team. And I think what do you think that me.
What do you think that is, though? That's such an interesting point. Do you think it's balance? Do you think it's perspective? Is that a learned perspective? Is it learned balance? I agree with you 100%. A lot of the players I talk with, or the athletes, like the fun, or quote, the off time is not what you manage to fit in when you're not on. Like, that becomes built into the program, right? But what do you think it is for in that example that you just said? Is it perspective? What is it?
I think that's where it starts, right? That's kind of the surface of the water. We talk perspective, we talk balance. Athletes hear that and it's very cognitive, it's very conscious. So I don't think it runs deep enough to actually create the safety of what's really going on. And so you asked, what do you think it is? And this is my hypothesis, that it comes down to safety. I think it's beyond sport. I think sport, we use a lot of the buzzwords, right? Performance anxiety. We use overthinking, sure, but we don't want to use the word fear. But look up the symptoms of fear and anxious attachment and anxiety, which I don't know if we want to open that door yet, to the very human side.
Do you think because it's perceived weakness? Do you think that's what it is?
It could be. I mean, the overthinking, hyperfixed focus, tension in the body, trying to control variables we don't actually have control of that are counterproductive to what we're actually trying to do. Like, these are a lot of just everyday symptoms of what we would call fear, but we don't use that term. And so the question to me is not, the surface of, we need perspective, we need balance. It's, why is everyone so scared? And then I think we can really open up a really interesting, human-centered, relatable conversation. And that's what I try to do in my work, because we, for sure, the breathing exercises and the reframing and the narratives that we have in our mind, sure, those are great to talk about and to consider. My big thing is, instead of just finding different buckets to put under the leak, how do we go fix that leak? Like, how do we have a relationship with sport where I'm running out for recess every time I step on the ice? And I observe the best of the best. I don't even know if I should use that term. Let's say performance specifically in front of 30,000, 40,000 people. And that's what I see. I see it's not that the competitiveness is removed, right? Like, oh, it's just about fun. Well, you can't have fun and perform under pressure
Right.
with a 3 point
Right.
shot to win the game or being the last shooter in the shootout and stuff. It's like, yes, you can. Those two things can coexist. And I think the variable that is the difference maker is safety. Whatever's going to happen in the next 10 seconds or 20 seconds, on the other side of that, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be okay. And when
Do you,
that's the perspective, I think now all the abilities that individual's been building for years can now effortlessly come to the surface.
do you think when you say safety, do you think it's safety from judgment, safety from evaluation, from uh, being perceived as less than or vulnerable? Is that what you mean when you say safety?
I would say maybe those buckets you just listed, I would say yes, different for different people. Is it
Sure.
fear of the future financially? Is it fear of the future opinion of ones that whose perspectives we greatly consider and put a lot of weight into? Is it social? Yeah, there's different types of causation of fear, and so yeah, I would say it's across the board bits of each one of those. And now I want to be clear, that's my perspective
Sure.
and opinion and hypothesis. I'm not saying that's black and white, the truth, but I just, here's an example. Like, I think one of the most interesting things I've seen in my work is Christmas holiday for athletes that I work with. Let's focus on hockey as a little niche down there. When they go home for Christmas, no conversations with me, no psychology, philosophy, thought reframing, etc. They go home for Christmas, they come back lighter, freer, more optimistic, more positive, more excited, more energy.
Always, right? Always.
And so it's like, well, what's going on there? Why don't we kind of, instead of the focus on grinding and more and more, and it's like, well, what happens? They go home for 3 days to 5 days and they're just rejuvenated and ready to go. Well, let's look at what's going on there. There's a break from the tension, both internal and external tension that's there. There's attention given to other life values and pillars in their life. There's nurturing of what appears to be an important part of the human experience, which is social connection. So I find that very fascinating. And I think it does require a pause and a zooming out of the whole perspective and, again, relationship with elite sport, that I'm not going to sit here and say I have all the answers, but I got a list of questions that I look to try and move closer to answers on in my work.
Do you think that what you just said, that do you think that is being kind of beaten out of people to remember, or do you think it's something that's just not being taught?
That's a brilliant question. I'll Sometimes I think, I don't
Maybe it's a
know if
both
it's
and.
being,
Maybe it's a both and.
yeah,
Kind of.
it could be. I mean, I'll say anecdotally, and I'm not saying this is across the board, but anecdotally, I see currently, whether it's a team deciding to do a workshop or have one of these conversations, it's often kind of shimmed into, oh, after practice at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock
Yeah,
at night, after
it's an
these athletes have
afterthought.
been in.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we fit it in and we kind of force it on them instead of allowing it to coexist in the experience. And again, a hypothesis I have would be, well, what if it wasn't even a workshop? It was actually just integrated into sport.
Yeah.
We celebrated the processing and the what athletes do after a mistake versus stopping the entire practice, hyperfixating on the mistake, and reinforcing this narrative that we need to teach our nervous system to keep an eye out for mistakes because they're a huge problem. Right? That, I think that would be more productive than having a workshop, some external voice coming in and saying, "Hey, it's okay to make mistakes." I don't know if that is as effective as it being completely integrated into the sport. And there are organizations that are doing it, and there are coaches that are doing it. And you feel the difference. I mean, you do enough workshops with athletes too. You walk into that locker room or
Culture. It's
meeting
a cultural
space.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I think. I think it can be integrated into the curriculum of sport versus our current model of having it slivered in at the end or, somewhat forced upon them from an outside voice. So anyways, I think we're all learning and growing in this.
Yeah.
And hey, back in the day, I think it was more objective, right? Numbers, stats, pick the best, and let's keep moving forward. And now we're like, oh, maybe there's actually an ability to bring up the capacity to perform in all these individuals by shifting how we speak about performance and how we even talk about the narrative and mission of each individual sporting journey itself.
When your playing career ended, from there to Heroic Minds launching, take me there. What was that time like in your life? What led to moving into that direction of creating something like Heroic Minds?
I think I completely just jumped into life outside of sport. Yeah, I was already in school at Wilfrid Laurier, which was in the same town that I played junior hockey in. So I was already going to school there. So I just took on more courses, jumped into campus activities, and actually started bartending too. There was a bar in town. I was still connected in the community, public speaking, going to schools. Yeah, there was no time off to kind of contemplate. It was jump right into life outside of sport, whether I was ready or not, or whether I knew what I was going to fall in love with next. I had no idea.
Were you nervous? Were you nervous that you didn't know what it was going to be, or were you just excited for the next chapter?
I was excited to find what it was going to be. I don't know why I wasn't. It's a good question. I don't know why I wasn't. I would say I was. It wasn't fear. Here's how I would put it. Actually, it's a great question because I've never been asked it. It wasn't fear of what I was going to do. The only fear I had was that I was separating from this part of my life that's been tied to me forever.
Yep.
Right. And even today, like what
identity.
Yeah, it was a bit of that. And what are people going to think? And who will I be in my friend groups? And I think it was and maybe often the case, I can't say always, but it's like that wasn't even something I needed to be scared of. The people that loved me are still everywhere around and supporting me. So you kind of make these things up sometimes.
Yep. It's almost sometimes it gets, I think, stigmatized as not knowing or being fearful, but it's uncertain, right? Uncertain doesn't mean bad. It just means it's uncertain.
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful point. Beautiful. I think that's such a powerful narrative. We think, oh, end of career, we're uncertain about it. Oh, that's bad. It's like actually maybe stepping into that uncertainty is the place that you'll find the certainty you're looking for, and the passion and the connection.
It's the growth
I think
zone,
that's a great
It's the growth zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you,
totally.
what was Heroic Minds before it was Heroic Minds? When was the time when you said, you know what, I think here's the game plan? What was that like?
Well, you might laugh at this. Like I'll never forget being in my university at the time, Laurier gym, and I ran into a friend of mine I went to high school with. Maybe one of the smartest people I know, if not the smartest. His name's Ian Bigford, and I ran into him. And to be honest, through high school, we knew of each other, and we were not as close as we are today. Let's say that, and we reconnected while at university. And he came up to me one day in the gym and he was finishing his degree in philosophy. He's gone on to do PhD in computer science, a bunch of other things. Again, brilliant guy. And so I knew him as that, though. I knew him as this very intelligent, wise young man. And he starts talking to me about this stuff because he did his degree in philosophy. And to be honest, the way I saw myself, you talk about the identity piece, I thought I don't have a seat at this table. In my mind, I don't have a seat at the, in-depth philosophy, morals, ethics conversation. I don't have a seat at that table. And he started entertaining my perspectives. And we ended up having amazing conversations that now, fast forward 15 years, we continue to. And that was it. That was one of the pivotal moments. I'll never forget it, being on the treadmill, turning around, and we started chatting. And I thought, oh, maybe I can have these conversations. Like maybe I am smart enough. Like I'll use my narrative in my mind. I'm too dumb for that. I'm not smart enough to, study that and get into that area of work. And that kind of kickstarted it. And then was then even more observant of human behavior and in the coaching, because I started coaching men's hockey at the University of Waterloo, a university just up the road. And yeah, that's really what started it. And so then started the podcast, realized I would go back to school and do my master's program in counseling and psychotherapy. And here we are today.
Was there along the way, do you remember kind of, not going to say evaluating each step, but were you okay with saying, I don't know exactly what I'm building or how this is going to turn out, but I know that there's passion for it, and kind of being in that uncertainty, right? Because building something is not easy and there are those doubts sometimes, but what was it that kind of got you through that?
Got through it. You mean what's allowed me to create a life raft and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
weather the
And
storm every day?
survive. Yeah, survive.
Yes. Yes. No, I'll be honest. It's not a what did I do in the past? It's what do I continue to learn today?
Love that.
It hasn't really changed, right? Like it's which I think is where I want to be though. I do. It's there'll be days where I am kind of, I'm working on finding time to pause and just not have to solve problems and do a bunch of things. I'm a work in progress too, and I say that to all my clients. So yeah, I wish I could give you a beautiful, sexy answer of, oh, here's what I did and here's why it's no problem today. But I'll be real instead, and I'm still learning how to navigate the uncertainty, stepping into a space of user experience, user design, front end, back end, and then partnerships and accounting and legalities and insurance. And it's a lot. It's a lot all at once. And again, great to have some really supportive, encouraging people. I was lucky to find an incredible developer to help take things to the next level. But yeah, it's the biggest thing has just been finding peace to the best of my ability with the immense number of unknowns that are constantly around. And I think once you stop, this is going to sound super simple and cliche, but once you stop worrying about those unknowns, it's like, oh, I'm good. I'm floating. I'm great. We're moving in the right direction and everything's okay. So yeah, there are times where you just have to be like, okay, what am I can stir over this thing, but I'm not going to do anything about it today. So learn to let go of certain things that aren't, feeding you. And that's been the biggest thing. And I have to remind myself all the time.
You've said a couple of things. This is what's been the most interesting thing to me going through this podcast journey. We put out a couple, maybe we've recorded, I can't remember, 9 or 10, but is seeing the similarities of people that I have great respect for, who I would look at as achievers, and all of them at some point or another during the conversation, they all say certain themes, and you've said a couple of them almost to a T, which is the concept of control the controllables, which is not easy to do. And, really kind of a perspective thing. You are where your feet are. Like, I remember my grandmother saying that to me when I was younger, and I had no idea how relevant of a concept that was. But those two things, if I were to pull out two of the many DNA pieces of everyone that I've spoke to on this podcast journey, people such as yourself, they always come, those two things are always included. And the third one is what you said, is this concept of continuing to learn, right? Being a constant learner. And is that surprise you to hear that? Those
Not
three?
really. Not really. I think how people get there to those understandings or perspectives is all different. But I think I mean, look at sport. Let's jump back to sport for a second. How athletes get to this place is all maybe different, but at the end of the day, we love the idea of flow. I think it's incredible when you are able to describe it in the way that suggests you're removed from the equation, right? I think that's beautiful. I forget who described it that way, or if it was a paper I was reading. There's experience and action, but you are removed. You is judgment of everything, right? And so that ego is kind of stripped away. And now all you're doing is observing the world around you and going with the next best option you have available to you. And that's it. And everything flows and the tension's reduced. And I think that's what I'm trying to adopt, even though it's not sport, trying to adopt that in my work as well, because it is so, here's the controllable piece. It is so easy to look, oh, well, this doesn't function like Instagram. Oh, well, this isn't, the content's not as clear as LinkedIn. Oh, well, we don't have enough users as this place. Our content, we don't have a content library big enough yet. It's like, these are the things that could keep me up for weeks at a time, but you have to, like, that goes back to the expectations. So if I could describe it today, it's like, yeah, in sport, it's second to second, shift to shift. And now in this technology business side, it's day to day, week to week that you have to be able to remove or create space between certain stimuli that can really suck you in and wear you down. So yeah, that's what I'm, again, continuing to work at every day.
Outside of what for most people would be the bottom line, right? I mean, this is where everyone's trying to feed their family and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. What how do you evaluate your success? Like the things you're doing, if you're looking at your, over the course of a week or you're talking to your team, like what is success to you?
We have the qualitative or the quantitative side that now we've integrated a measurable side to the amount of time and lessons completed by the individuals on our platform. So finally creating something more objective and measurable when it comes to this whole mental health performance piece. Like I think it's time we graduate from the workshop and check the box and say everyone's going to be fine, and make it a lot more measurable. So that's the quantitative side. The qualitative side is a little bit harder, right? Talking with coaches and talking with players. However, it's tough to say I can measure it subjectively. I did a workshop 3 weeks ago with a girls soccer team about half an hour from me in Mississauga, and I left feeling some of the best I've felt in a really long time, because these girls were full of joy and compassion and connection and energy, and their coach was no different. And I don't know what else would be more important than that. So that's how I measure it when I interact. And that's the thing, is it's now we've got this, the in-person part of our work, at least with Heroic Minds, and then we've got the education on the platform that's modern, measurable, all that stuff I talked about. And so it's structured that we do less in-person workshops, but we still have the workshops. And you can see when we do these presentations, there's way more questions and engagement in the second session. And by the third session, they're like rolling their eyes. They're like, we already know this. We already know this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get chills. Think literally, I just got chills
Yeah.
saying that to you, because there it is. And so when you say, what is the overall mission? And I know I put myself out of a job when I say this, it's that what if we didn't wait for there to be crisis and debilitating
Yeah.
anxiety, and we didn't have the education in clunky clinical presentations or locked up in research departments or in 3-hour podcasts where a lot of people they're driving or they're working on the house or whatever, where we actually created an applicable and effective curriculum for people beyond even just the social emotional intelligence, but nutrition and physical literacy, financial literacy, these really pertinent, important parts of life that it just seems like a lot of people don't really know about, or they hear it once and then when they need it, they got to go back again. Like, what if these ideas were made modern and relevant, in honestly being inspired by these platforms we currently see that have an interesting way of keeping people coming back? But what if we filled that with educational ideas that were empowering people? So maybe we did limit the amount of people that felt they needed to spend certain amounts of money to get one-on-one support, which I do think there's a place for that. Don't get me wrong. But I think we could do a lot of work proactively and
Yeah.
preventatively with some modern education. And I would say that's the overall mission.
How do you navigate those things when you put like your CEO hat on? How do you navigate all of those? I'm not going to say challenges, but wearing all of the different hats. When you wake up one day and you feel like your priority line is horizontal, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, we got this piece, we got this piece, and somewhere in your mind you're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm so in the business of the business, I'm not doing the part that I love about the business. So how do you navigate that? Which probably sounds like an average Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
exactly.
every
You're
day.
like, welcome to my day every day.
Yeah.
There's one, yes, I'd love to be in person talking partnerships and working with athletes and working on the marketing. And there's an aspect to where sometimes I just accept that, okay, I don't get to do that right now. This is you find a way to, enjoy. Where's my picture of, here we go. Mike Tyson right here, a picture in my office. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of it. It's like, yeah, I'd want to be building this partnership with this company or this sporting organization. And there are just days where it's like, no, that conversation I want to have is going to be a lot easier if I dial in on this today. And that's, again, what's most important. There was another way to describe it. This was early on in my journey. An individual that built a company and sold it to Google a long time ago. He spent some time with me, and he said, the one thing you're going to have to work on and get really good at is there's going to be 1,000 things you can do every day, and your job is to pick the most important 3. And it's like, that rings in my head multiple times a day. And I'll say it works. It's not easy, but you look at the domino. Okay, what's going to make that thing I've got to do easier in the future? Or another idea I've heard recently is the better your product, the less marketing you need. And so I really like that. And yeah, a lot of people do as many people know about Heroic Minds as I'd like? No. But hopefully that if we do this in the most effective way, not just doing more and working the hardest, but if we do this in the most effective way, ideally that starts to take care of itself. And we're starting to see that. So yeah, that's.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe another way of saying what you just said, which I think is very, very important. It sounds to me like you were suggesting this, that it's almost by we all want the outcomes, but the irony of getting the outcomes is really to focus on the actions and behaviors that when and if you do them, they lead to those outcomes. Is that right? That's kind of like what you were saying.
Yes, and when you nailed it. And I would sprinkle in one of my favorite ideas I share all the time with my clients is I love this, right? I love this mission I'm on, and I love what I'm doing, and I'm very lucky to be able to say that, and I realize it. It's so easy to forfeit that. It's so easy to give that up by wanting to be in a place you're not at yet, and maybe you're not even supposed to be there yet. And there's this Eastern, I think it's taken from, Eastern philosophy is, it was actually Alan Watts, I believe, in one of his monologues that said it. You think of your favorite song. When you first turn on your favorite song, do you fast forward it to the end to get to the end as quick as possible, or do you actually leave it at the pace it's supposed to be, because that's what makes it the most beautiful it could be?
Yeah.
And that's a reminder for me too. And here's a very maybe crazy example, but one I always think of because I walk my dog every morning. Not to stereotype, I have an Italian background, and a big thing at least with my family and my other Italian individuals that I played hockey with or that I know, a big thing is our lawn, right? Your front lawn and your back lawn. And it's getting it in tip-top shape and getting rid of the weeds and all that stuff. And so one day I was walking with my dog, and there are a couple of houses in our neighborhood that they've just got it figured out. I don't know what the heck they're doing. They have a handbook on lawns that I've never seen, because some of them are just, they look like they've gone out with a pair of scissors with their hand, and it's
they look
just
like
perfect.
Augusta National.
Exactly. And I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, it'd be so nice if mine looked like that. And then I thought about it a little bit more, and I walked past at this point, and I thought about it a little bit more, and then I thought, then what would I do?
Yeah.
What would I do at the end of a long day where I enjoy going out and picking weeds, and my neighbors chirping me about it and making fun of me for it, and which is now me interacting with my neighbors, and it's just like, yeah, do I really actually want it to be perfect and be there at this point? And I thought, no, I don't. I like the weeds and where am I going to seed? And I've got to, and the jokes with my wife, she rolls her eyes, but lovingly. And it's like, that's actually what makes this whole thing about making my lawn as great as it can be, is all the BS. So excuse my French, all the challenges and stuff along the way that does make it so fun. So that's something I try to remind myself of as well.
When you think back about the guy that started Heroic Minds, or co-founded it, what would you say to him, knowing now and the lessons you've learned? Like, if you had to give him 2 pieces of advice, what do you think you would tell a younger Ben?
Don't be distracted or blinded by the things around you that you think are perfect and amazing, that we so often see on social media or the news of, yeah, don't be distracted by that. Uh, and that there's no more powerful place you can be than right here, right now.
Those are two amazing ones. Yeah, and to the best of your abilities, do you think that you are practicing those yourself? Like, I know that would be the advice, but do you think that you are practicing those yourself?
To, like the rest of us, I think, not to speak for other people, I think we're all works in progress. And yeah, and I, like I said, I'll double down on it. I share that with my clients too. And I say, you teach me something, because
Yep.
I'm learning on this journey as well. And, that competitive person that used their competitiveness in sport, I'm adopting a lot of the same methodologies and philosophies in what I do now, which means I also need those reminders to keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise. And uh, yeah, I would say continuing to be aware of assumptions and perspectives that can inhibit my ability to evolve, and do my best here. That's pretty much it. Yeah, removing perfection completely out of the repertoire, and one foot in front of the other. So
Do you
no idea where
find
this is going to go.
do you find two more, and then we'll let you go. Do you
Yeah,
find
yeah.
that a lot of the younger people that you interact with, whether it be in a seminar or just any of your clients, do you find that that's a struggle understanding or mixing up the concept of perfection and progress? Like, do you almost feel like you're rewiring for some of those people? Do you see that a lot?
Yeah, I don't, and I think we all have a bit of a different idea of perfection, right? For some people, it's literally no turnovers at all, right? The ironic one is, your team loses the game, but you had 2 points and played pretty damn
Yep.
well, so you can walk away feeling good. The
Yep.
reverse is also true. You know, team wins, you had a couple turnovers, maybe no points, and you're like, right. And so I think a lot of that's subjective on the perfection side. Uh, yeah, it's going back to this perspective of, let's do more, let's move towards elite performance, constantly talking about performance and being better. What about the place of being incredibly safe and secure before things are perfect, quote unquote perfect again, right? And I think that's where I put the attention in our work is, let's find safety and security in who we are right now today, not thinking, oh, that safety is going to come in the future once I get 10 points, once I'm drafted, once I have X amount. How can we find safety and security now before all that becomes objectively real? Also, because it might not, right? So it might be maybe more effective long term to work on finding security and safety in ourselves and with the people around us than in the objective world around us. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I like to chat with people about the concept of helping them maximize their potential. I don't know what the journey or the dream is for them. And to some degree, I almost don't care. I want what's the best for them, but helping people lead a life where they are maximizing everything that they can possibly be or do, for me, that's very, very empowering. And I think a lot of younger people, in my opinion, when I say younger, I'm 51, so basically anybody younger than me, but is really struggling with that concept of, like, what does success mean? Because perfection, it's like, I don't even know if that's a possibility, but celebrating progress and being confident in yourself, being able to reevaluate your performance or readjust, almost, kind of reprogram. I think that's a skill that I really get a great deal of joy in helping people recognize that, you
Yeah.
know?
If I could put, I mean, there's a lot of factors that would go into that. I'd say the one thing I've learned a lot lately that I think coincides with that comment is when it comes from I know there's internal and external factors, guiding all of us, but I think when all of everything we've talked about today comes at the end of the day, after it's learned and maybe understood that it's coming from the inside, right?
Yep.
The reason to do something, the motivation to do something. And I'll give you a prime example. And I actually really like asking people this question now, because it packs a punch, but it's also, there's humor to it, right? And so I'll say to an individual, I'll say, let's hypothetically, you come home from school one day or you finish work one day, and there's a difficult task you have to complete. But you feel, for whatever reason, in this moment, you're just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. Either I want to get it done or it's going to make someone else happy. So I'm just going to do it. I'm exhausted, but I'll just, right, shoveling the driveway, cleaning the kitchen, finishing the homework, whatever, doing the laundry, whatever it might be. I'm just going to do it. And you're just about to start, and someone else comes up to you and says, hey, make sure you shovel the driveway. Hey, make sure you get your homework done. Hey, make sure you, and instantly, just like the grin on your face right now, they grin exactly and they say, right? And they say, oh, I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah, or, oh, right? That. The eye, exactly, right? The eye roll. And so I think there's so many factors right now, or variables from the outside, that are driving a lot of people to want to do things, which I think, in my perspective of things, leads to a lot of fear. It's I have to or else. And coming back to, you said maximizing one's potential. Our program is, business is heroic minds, thinking, embedded in the ideas around heroism. And I think one thing I've learned, and maybe this is my articulation of the different philosophies around heroism, is that yes, you want to beautify the world around you, right? You're driven to beautify the world around you, and in turn, that beautifies your life, is a very super simple explanation of it. But to be able to do that, you have to be able to rise up and be that person that can then beautify the world around you. So the step is that it's almost like, I say this we'll focus on the sporting perspective. I say this with clients, like, when you show up to play, it's for you first, right? And that comes off as very selfish. Because in sport, we often hear, do it for the team, do it for the coaches, do it for, yes, beautiful, sure. That's going to be step 2. When you show up, you're doing it for you. You're not distracted anymore by the world around you or the opinions of others, because you're there for you. And I ask this question, when you're there out for recess, you're not there for anyone else. You're just, you couldn't even wait for that opportunity. Once that bell went, it was pure adventure and excitement. And that's for you. And so who are you when you're at recess and when you're doing something purely for yourself? Are you a little more patient? Are you a little more calm? Do you probably make better decisions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And they're like, yes, yes, yes. And I say, who benefits from that? Yep. Their teammates, their coaches, everyone else around them.
In order to be a better teammate, whatever, like you have to be the best version of yourself. Yeah.
Bingo. And so trying to bring a lot of that into my work, and then you take that and put it, plug that energy and passion you have into whatever you're doing. And there's a major piece that comes up in the work that I do.
Well, thank you, honestly, so much. I mean, I could talk to you all day. If people want to learn more about you or the work that you're doing, where would you like for us to send them, or where should they go to learn more about it?
Well, they can, the internet's a magical tool. It's Ben Fanelli, BenFanelli, and Heroic Minds. Just type that in and you'll be connected to the work that we're doing. I would encourage people, Heroic Minds, you can jump on. It's free. They jump on, create an account. We're encouraging not only people to interact with the education from professionals around the world, but we have a journal feature as well, where people are encouraged to share things that life is teaching them that may benefit someone else. So encourage all of your listeners to at least give that a sample, and we're growing. So it'd be nice to have your followers along with us.
It's been awesome watching you create this. And I did mean when I said at the beginning that even from afar, though, I mean, I have such great respect for you. You've always been so kind with your time. This guy you didn't know a while ago, pinning you, asking you questions. You've really treated me with a great amount of respect, and I really appreciate that. And for those folks who are listening, thanks so much for spending time with us on Always Coachable. If this episode gave you something, we ask that you share it with someone who's still growing, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube at Sandy Cohen Official. Remember that the best never think they've arrived, so stay curious, stay humble, stay coachable. I'm Sandy Cohen, and we will see you next time.